AI skills have arrived in SharePoint in preview. With this innovation, SharePoint moves from a tool that can present and collect information to one that can work on it with you. And by creating skills that align with your workflows, you can embed process-level intelligence directly into your SharePoint sites for use by your whole team. In this video, we'll look at how you get these preview features, how you create skills, how you use them, and consider what this could mean for your organization's adoption of AI. Stick around to learn more. My name is Nick DeCourcy. I'm a Microsoft 365 consultant who specializes in AI adoption for small and medium-sized businesses. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Microsoft 365 Copilot. If you're interested in keeping up with AI advances, make sure you get subscribed to the channel and drop this video a like so you get to see more from me in the future. And if you're interested in working with me, check out the links down in the video description to get in contact. The first question to answer is, what are skills? Well, Anthropic first introduced the concept of skills back in 2025. The idea is that you have certain tasks you want your AI assistant to perform repeatedly that might have multiple steps or require certain tools. In a world of agentic AI assistants, you want your agent to know how to do these tasks when you need them, but you neither want your agent instructions to be a novel, as overly complex or too broad instructions can negatively impact efficacy, nor do you want to have to enter the task-specific prompt each time. Skills, or agent skills as they were referred to by Anthropic, solve these two problems. They offer a way to share complex repeatable logic with your agentic AI as you need it, based on a concept of sharing these instructions only as needed, a process known as progressive disclosure. It's kind of like if you have a library of SOPs in your business for different tasks. If you need to refer to one, you're only going to access the one that's relevant to the task you're doing. And if you just open all of them, it would probably be more confusing than beneficial. I first looked at this concept here on the channel several months back, and at this point I highlighted how useful this concept could be to Copilot and Microsoft 365. Over the last several months, Anthropic models have become a focus for Microsoft and are now in use across Microsoft 365 Copilot. But so too are other concepts that originated with Anthropic's AI approach, like skills. We now see them in preview in two places. First, in Copilot Cowork, a new agent based on Claude Cowork. I'll drop links to my existing videos on this down in the description. And now, the focus of today's video, skills in SharePoint, which have arrived as part of the broader AI in SharePoint preview. To access skills today, you need to enable the AI in SharePoint preview for your tenant or for specific sites. I'll drop a link to the Microsoft Learn pages detailing this process in PowerShell. This is something an admin has to do. And once you've got that working, you can enable skills by navigating to your site settings, then to site collection features, and turning on the agent assets feature. You need to be a site collection administrator to do this, but in modern SharePoint Online, in most cases, the site owner will have this level of access. Once that is enabled, you get this new agent assets document library, and this is where you will save your skills. The easiest way to get started with skills is to allow AI in SharePoint to create one for you. In this document library, I have a bunch of files related to a particular client, like all my demos, this is example data, and a regular process I run is to review all the files in a client folder and create a pre-meeting brief prior to any meeting. This type of repeatable workflow is something that can become a skill, and I can ask AI in SharePoint to create one using a prompt. It goes ahead and creates the skill, explains what it does, and how to use it. If I jump into the skill that AI in SharePoint has dropped into the Agent Assets library under Skills, you can see that we end up with a folder that has the skill name and a markdown file, skill.md. Each skill has a skill.md file. This includes a YAML front matter component that explains what the skill does. This is what your AI tool using the skills references to work out what capabilities it has access to, and then a set of instructions. These are just instructions that you could type into AI in SharePoint in chat, but obviously repeating this each time would be a lot of extra effort. If I go back to the document library and run this skill, you can see that it will find the skill, works out what it's supposed to do, reasons over the documents that it thinks are relevant to the request, and outputs a result in chat. This process is obviously sped up for the video, as are all the demos you'll see today, and we'll get back to that point later. But just outputting text in chat doesn't really show off the different capabilities of skills in SharePoint. Just like skills in Claude or Copilot Codework, they are essentially just a set of instructions that are able to address the underlying runtime capabilities of wherever it is you're running that task. And because AI in SharePoint has specific capabilities that address features in SharePoint, we can use skills to address those features too. Here, I have another document library. This time, this is filled with project folders, and each of the folders has slightly different contents in terms of the files held there. We have an expectation within our business that complete project folders should always contain certain document types, such as a brief or notes from the kickoff meeting, and we want to create a skill to address this. My skill works at the folder level. It checks the content, and then it adds metadata in columns to that folder, showing whether the underlying package is complete, or if it's not, what's missing. I run my skill at the document library level first. It's important to see what AI in SharePoint does. The skill is scoped to reasoning over a specific project folder. AI in SharePoint knows that and notifies me of my error. This is useful as often AI tools will just process prompts without real consideration of whether the contextual input scope is right or not. AI in SharePoint seems to understand well what scope it is working in and ensures that the skill run gets appropriate input to do its job. Correcting this, you can see that if I select a folder and run the request, it goes ahead and looks at the contents and makes a judgment. But it also goes ahead and creates metadata columns that weren't previously present on the library and populates them for this case. And just to test, if I select one that is incomplete and try again, it does indeed show me this folder doesn't contain what we want. But the point to take away here is because it creates the column for me, I could take this skill and take it to another document library, run it the same, and it would set up what it needed. But skills neither need to be constrained to working on one file or folder at a time, nor do they have to work in just one library. They are agentic, so they can work sequentially through their steps on a broader data set, and they have the ability to work anywhere in the SharePoint site. In this case, I have a library where I'm holding intake information for new vendors. Part of the data in each packet is the vendor's insurance position, and I want to use a skill to do an insurance audit on each vendor. My skill checks the insurance information for each file on the library level, and then instead of recording it in the document library, it puts that data in a list, and if necessary, creates that list. It goes ahead and finds its vendor insurance audit skill and sequentially runs the requirement against each file. It presents its work in the chat so it can be checked and then asks me to confirm the right action, where it's going to add all of this to a list. So if I go back and look at the list, you can see I have all the information related to the insurance and can follow up from here. This is a relatively new preview feature, and compared to many previews that have been released as part of Copilot over the last couple of years, this is very usable today. However, there are some gaps that I think it's important to talk about, both in relation to what we might be seeing added to the preview in the coming weeks and months, but also leading to some questions about the broader product direction we're seeing here. First, while AI in SharePoint does a lot already, there are big elements of what you might do in document libraries or lists that it doesn't have tools for yet, and some of these are somewhat surprising. For example, one of the first demos I tried to do of skills was to clean up a document library with client files put into a consistent folder structure. Right now, AI in SharePoint cannot create folders, so skills just cannot do this. There are other gotchas like this, but it's important to remember that previews are the place where it's okay for Microsoft to ship experiences that might feel somewhat incomplete. Other items that it cannot do today are already announced as coming. For example, today you cannot create Office files with your skills, but this is announced as arriving to the preview in the coming months. And if this is anything like other preview capabilities across Microsoft's AI estate, we are likely to see lots of movement in new capabilities just like this. The mechanism for creating and updating skills also, in my opinion, could use some work. The situation where anyone with edit access to the site can by default change a skill that then gets used by any appropriately licensed site user just feels a bit risky. Hopefully this skills management issue is something that evolves. While in isolation, this set of capabilities is very usable, it doesn't sit in isolation. The gate to access AI in SharePoint and these skills is a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, and this license includes a disparate set of AI capabilities. However, one strong consistent thread throughout Copilot is Copilot Chat. You can access this in the Copilot app, but it's also the experience that pops up when you open Copilot in most of the apps. There, the core extensibility paradigm is agents, and increasingly we can use all of our agents wherever we can use chat. SharePoint now largely sits on its own in surfacing an entirely different chat paradigm that approaches scope, access, and extensibility in an entirely different way. Skills are useful, but having two competing experiences where workers are just trying to do their job, whether they open Microsoft's AI from Word or from SharePoint, seems to me to be counterproductive. But beyond this, there are some architectural decisions that impact SharePoint skills, driven by how AI in SharePoint just works. First, AI in SharePoint offers no tool for SharePoint skills for proper enterprise search. The search tool is always scoped the same as the skill. So in a more realistic scenario of that meeting prep demo where some of the content lives in SharePoint, but some might also be in my previous Teams meetings, my skill cannot address anything outside of SharePoint. This feels odd given that within the confines of a chat, this is a personal experience, not a shared experience, the same paradigm we see for Copilot Chat. Second, while SharePoint skills largely align with what we have over in Claude, they don't entirely. One of the capabilities of Claude skills is to add scripts as part of the skill itself, meaning that we can specify how Claude is going to handle data analysis and other actions that require deterministic outputs and do this the same way each run. SharePoint skills don't have this capability, and frankly it's unclear whether AI in SharePoint has any real data analysis tool in its runtime that is on par with the code execution capabilities we currently see in other services. For that reason, I'm a little suspicious of demos I see right now that rely on SharePoint skills for structured data analysis, like this one from Microsoft, where it creates an HTML dashboard from data. An LLM can make sure this looks nice, but without tools access that gives the LLM a calculator, it might look great, but the numbers might be wrong. These sorts of technical issues are ones that there are solutions for elsewhere across Microsoft's AI capabilities, and while it's unclear whether the plan is to address this for SharePoint skills or AI in SharePoint, based on the history we've seen with Copilot, we know that features can evolve and iterate rapidly to deliver more value. I'm definitely on record in highlighting how excited I was for the potential of Claude's agent skills coming to Microsoft 365, and while I think SharePoint skills deliver in a lot of places, there are some more fundamental questions in my mind about how these capabilities fit into the broader AI product stack that is anchored by Microsoft 365 Copilot. SharePoint, when executed well and in alignment with best practices, is about consistency and repeatability, treating similar assets in the same way so they can be discovered and worked on and governed to deliver business value. It's for this reason that one of the things that left me a little perplexed when running skills like my last demo was speed. That analysis of 12 files took nearly 8 minutes, and as someone who runs a one-person business that has more than 12 vendors, I understand having just 12 files in a vendor intake library is a wild underestimate for most businesses that works fine for demos, but is nowhere near reality for production. My takeaway was wondering just how long this would take on a realistically sized dataset. And this wasn't a demo I just dreamed up out of the air, it was largely shaped the same as the one Microsoft describes on its own SharePoint Skills documentation page. The UI of AI being chat for Copilot makes sense. It's helping you with personal productivity, and the actions it takes are largely for your direct benefit or as part of your workflow. The understanding with SharePoint, though, is that when we make broad updates there, they are often for broader benefit and relied upon directly by a bigger audience. Is chat the right UI for this sort of workload, and are processes that take tens of minutes or more to run in a sidecar chat experience the right modality for this type of work? Frankly, I can see huge opportunity for skills across Microsoft 365. It's great that we have them in code work and we need them to arrive in Copilot chat, but how they are executed in SharePoint, in my opinion, makes a far better demo than it does an enterprise process running at scale. It's not that the work they do isn't valuable, it's just that I don't see how we build the robustness necessary into this approach. Who should run that skill and when? If there are 2 or 3 or 4 people relying on the insights it creates, do they all run the skills each time they access the data? Do they all run it again every time they update something? This is a solution that is inherently designed to manage processes that impact everyone, but operates on an individual basis with no team-wide accountability or auditability for those processes. There's lots to like about skills in SharePoint, but there's also a lot of opportunities still on the table for Microsoft to realise with these capabilities. However, the biggest need, in my opinion, is to work out how skills in SharePoint fit into a world of autofill columns or automated flows triggered from SharePoint that add value reliably and at scale, rather than the chat-based paradigm that works for the individual but is difficult to track for a team. If this can be worked out, there is huge potential here to show why AI and SharePoint together are a difference maker for returning value on your business's Copilot investments. Let me know your experiences with skills in SharePoint so far, and what do you think of my takeaways here? Am I making sense in terms of my expectations, or do you think the experience that we've got so far is the one that you want to see? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching through to the end. Until the next video, bye bye.